is good. Love each other like the members of your family. Be the best at showing honor to each other. Don't hesitate to be enthusiastic. Be on fire in the Spirit as you serve the Lord. Be happy in your hope. Stand your ground. And when you're in trouble, devote yourselves to prayer. Contribute to the needs of God's people and welcome strangers into your home. The gospel reading, John 16:22. Jesus said, "So you have pain now, but I will see you again, and your hearts will rejoice, and no one will take your joy from you." I'm not going to lie. I had been working on this since the time that he was found in the new gym locker room. When he went to go work out and had his first of many heart attacks. For those that you had lost count, he had had 16 stents put in. No, it's not a record, but it's close. I'd been dreading this day. I knew it was coming. And by gosh, he had to do it on a Cardinals-Cubs weekend of all else. But as I was thinking about what to say about my dad, I've come to realize that there are a majority of the stories that we cannot share in the Lord's house. We can do that at the bar later. But our headline for today reads, Norse legend enters Valhalla. Our byline is anyone who encountered Monty Lee Franks Jr. And the dateline is February 10th, 1949 through August 2nd, 2025. The lead. You're here today because you had an encounter with the man, the myth, the legend, and other names that you may have had for him, that left you with the classic journalistic questions of who, what, when, where, why, and how. We are the body of work that Monty accomplished. The awards, the pictures, the stories are only box scores on the life that Monty lived. While the way he played the game is chock full of balls, strikes, walks, runs batted in, we are his home runs. Monty played the game of life hard and to the best of his abilities, when even some would doubt his abilities. The man could fly up and down Robertson Field Stadium stairs like no other, and would put most athletes at NEO A&M to shame at how he could fly up and down those stairs. He could craft the stat sheets better than any Excel or Apple iPhone app could ever do. Maybe not completely accurate, but better than some AIs. I asked my siblings to share with us a couple of quotes. There were two that we all agreed on. The first is, "I can't, never did anything." For those of you that don't know this legend, it was one that he would proclaim anytime you would say, "I can't do this." And he would always rebuttal back, "I can't, never did anything," as his "I can't" spirit kept him to do good work. He refused to let any challenge be in his way, no matter how stubborn it was or how stubborn he would be. But to even make this point clear, there were moments that sometimes we would load up in the car thinking we would go for our normal weekly ride, and he would drive us to Lincoln Elementary School and have us step outside in the alleyway where he buried Mr. I Can't. We all embody that. Dad had true grit. And yes, John Wayne was one of his heroes, and anytime a John Wayne movie was on, whatever we wanted to watch didn't matter. But it was this grit that propelled him to live a life that would not allow failure or fear be in the way of whatever it is he wanted to accomplish. It was this grit that he passed on to us, whether we wanted it or not. The bulk of his life was spent with his first true love, NEO A&M. Many of you are here today because you definitely have Monty's stories. Hold on to those. Share those. That's how the legend lives on. But the way that Dad loved NEO was to inspire everyone who walked through those doors to be great. And sometimes that inspiration was more like to piss you off, but he did it so that way you would try to prove him wrong. But he always wanted what was best for NEO. And a lot of you have noted that NEO wouldn't be what it is today if it wasn't for him. A lot of my memories of Dad are spent at NEO. From pretty much living in Shipley Hall most of my life, and then when we moved him over to Dyer, literally living in those spaces, which is probably why I didn't end up going to NEO. They should have just given me a degree for as many hours as my siblings and I spent there watching Mom and Dad put together the Norse Wind, the yearbook, the programs. But he made his life a family effort. Whether it was Saturday afternoons getting the press box ready or selling programs or sitting behind the scores table. And dear Lord, if you made any kind of cheering behind the scores table, you would hear it when we got home. I give thanks to Dad for all that he has done for me and letting me sit and watch him do his craft. I believe that the amount of NEO hot dogs that we consumed as a family is definitely a record. And while there are a lot of other things about NEO that we could all spend, if we opened the mic, we would be here for a long time. But another memory I remember is his involvement in the NEO high school basketball tournament. Handling all the sheets and all the things that he did for that tournament for years, it was truly a sight to see. And there were moments that it seemed as though he was in all the gyms at one time. Even when I was working for the News Record, I can't tell you how many times I really thought he was in all the gyms at one time. If there are Monty clones, please dispose of them correctly. But he was the ultimate Norseman. Former Cardinal manager Tony Rusla is quoted as saying, "Just because you're down to your last strike, you're not out yet. You can always do more. You always have more at bats." And that's true in baseball and rescuing animals and life generally. In the last years of my life, of his life, Dad still wanted to find a way to do more. Sometimes we had to tell him he couldn't. But you know him, that didn't work very well. And then him and his companion, Blazer, got this bright idea to take a tour of pretty much all of America. First to visit my sister Jenny in Florida, then finding their way up to Yellowstone, so then they could find their way to see his recently departed sister, Twyla. And on that journey from Yellowstone to Arizona, Dad really wanted to go up Pikes Peak, and so he convinced Blazer to try to go up Pikes Peak. But the EMT saw that Dad definitely probably shouldn't be going up on the cog train. Of course, this didn't please Dad at all. And he tried to talk the EMT into letting him go. He even was willing to say, if I die, just roll my body down the hill. My kids will know where to find me. And so I promised that when we receive his ashes, I promise to take him up to Pikes Peak and dispose of him there. Dad's love for his siblings mirrors much of us, how we are ourselves. Judy, the love and care that you and Dad had was so fun to watch. And then anytime he would talk about UK, he would just light up with just so much how proud he was of you and the work you were doing in Chickasha. And then we can't but not forget his brother Tom. It was crushing to him to lose Tom. Dad and Tom were each other's heroes. And Dad also looked up to his sister Twyla, who just passed away just a few days before him. And we even told Dad it's okay to finish third. Chris, Jenny, Amanda, and Kimberly. He loved you so much, but he loved his grandkids and grandkids more. The way he would light up into the room when they would walk in, I knew at that moment that we were all not first in his eyes anymore. The last quote. I'll pay for this later. Damn it, Kimberly. And you have to understand, this is one that we all agree in the latter part of his years, that this is something he said quite frequently. Thank you. Thank you for the way that you tended to Dad the last few years of his life. I concede you win. You're his favorite. Which is really why I believed he waited until I left and it was just you and him to pass on to glory. Dad, without a doubt in my mind, you were welcomed home into Valhalla. With all those people who had finished their race, cheering you on, welcoming you home. And Jesus smiling, saying, "Well done, good and faithful servant, now you rest." Monty Lee Franks Jr. was born and raised in Miami, Oklahoma, where he graduated from Miami High School in 1967. Monty was a caring husband and beloved father, proud grandfather and great-grandfather. His life's journey was marked by a deep dedication to Northeastern Oklahoma A&M Junior College, and he set the standard of what it means to be a true Norseman. His passion for sports and journalism blossomed at NEO, which he attended from 1967 to 1969, and some wondered if he ever left. He served as equipment manager for several teams, including the 1967 and 1969 NJCAA national champions in football. Later, he earned a bachelor's and master's degree at Northeastern State University in Tahlequah, where he honed his skills as a sports writer and editor. In 1974, after a brief teaching stint at Claremore Junior College, Monty returned to his beloved NEO. He became the sports information director, a journalism instructor, and a longtime advisor for the Norse student paper. He was known for his love of the college and his ability to tell the stories of its students and athletes through his writing and mentorship. Monty's excellence was recognized nationally as he was named Outstanding Junior College Sports Information Director in both 1978 and 1979 by the College Sports Information Directors Association. His football media guides were awarded Best All Around by the NJCAA for 4 consecutive years from 1977 to 1980. His lifetime contributions were honored in 2004 with his induction into the NJCAA Football Hall of Fame. Even after retiring from NEO, though he never really did, in 2002, Monty remained a passionate voice for the college, continuing to write for the Miami News Record. His storytelling was not only preserved in NEO's legacy, but also strengthened the community's connection to its history. Monty was inducted into the NEO Athletics Hall of Fame in 2012. And in 2023, he was honored as NEO's Outstanding Retired Faculty Recipient, a fitting tribute to a life dedicated to service, scholarship, and his unwavering commitment to the college he loved so deeply. For Monty, his proudest roles were not defined by the accolades, but by the love of his family. He was a caring husband to Pamela Bushyhead as she journeyed with Alzheimer's and dementia and would later pass away from colon cancer on March 7th, 2016. Monty was preceded in passing of his parents, Monty Franks and Gail Beck, and his stepdad, George Beck, and most recently, his brother, Thomas Forbes, and his sister, Twyla Sizemore. A loving father to 5 children, son Chris and wife Penny of Stillwater, daughter Jennifer and husband Matt of Jacksonville, Florida, me and my wife Ashley of Castle Rock, Colorado, daughter Amanda and her husband Justin of Roland, and Kimberly and Brett. You had to wear your Braves. I'm sure he'll be visiting later. We can never forget his love for his great-grandkids and his grandkids, along with his siblings, Judy and Kay. Dad's legacy will live on in generations through us, those that he taught, mentored, wrote about, loved, pissed off. Any other words that you want to use, feel free to. You will be deeply loved and forever remembered. But one final assignment. For Dad's story and legacy to continue on, we must continue to tell some of the stories. You don't have to tell them all. But the big thing is that he would want us to continue that no matter what the circumstances may be in front of us, that we press on and press through. And as I'm grateful for Robert Rose reading Psalm 23 today, if you notice there that the Lord will lead us through the valley. And it's in this moment that that's how we carry on the legend. Let us stand, and as we sing that great hymn, number 2282, I'll Fly Away.